All right, welcome everyone. There we go.
All right.
All right, welcome, and really excited for our final event of Startup Spring Week. We put together a whole week of activities and different panels, workshops. We had our startup accelerator cohort for Prepare for VC do their demo day a few nights ago, and everybody did a great job. Went out to the TechCrunch conference yesterday. Had a female founders breakfast this morning, and now we're on our final two panel events with coalition partnerships and leaders building beyond borders. And really excited about all the speakers we have and their amazing backgrounds and communities. And just excited for all the great partners that help us put this together. Prepare for VC. We have an accelerator cohort. We run communities, including our Boston New Technology and the Startup Grind Boston chapter as well, hosting different panels and workshops and other events. We had partnered with the TechCrunch early stage on the conference that happened yesterday, and met a lot of great founders and have a lot of follow-ups to do next week. So it was a great experience. And then really excited to have Hayden from Supporting Strategies with us and give an introduction on their company as a sponsor of ours as well.
Thank you, Jason. And I'm so excited to hear what you all have to talk about today because it's like my favorite thing. My name is Hayden Huff, and I'm the Director of Business Development at Supporting Strategies. But besides that, I'm super passionate about people. I love them. I love learning about startups and their unique business challenges. And then, like I said, my favorite part of my job is getting to be a connector and build partnerships, which is why I'm so stoked to be here today with you guys. But Supporting Strategies is a virtual outsourced accounting firm. We've been around as a 100% virtual company since 2004, which is pretty unique. And we're 92% women. We're women found, owned, and operated.
Wow.
Yeah,
amazing.
It's pretty wild. We have about 100 franchises across the country. But we will really be your back office accounting team when you don't need a full-time resource. As a startup, you really don't need that entire team. So we can really service you all the way from the controller role down to bookkeeping, perform your month-end close, be your accounts payable, receivable department, do your collections, all the really fun stuff that I'm sure you love doing. And then help give you better financial insight into your business by doing financial reporting for you. We can also be your back office HR team. So really just supporting you from a back office standpoint, which is a really, really overlooked thing, but super fundamental if you want to continue to grow and scale your product, your service, your people, and all of that. So if anyone has any questions, I'm always available. You can find me on LinkedIn. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks. And also really excited to partner with Innovation Studio and District Hall here at the space we're at in Seaport right now, and all of their great programs supporting early stage startups. So I'll hand it over to Marisa from Innovation Studio, who's one of our moderators. And
We'll hand it over to Ashley.
Sure.
Ashley can do it.
All right. There you go.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Medeiros. I'm the Vice President of Strategy and Partnership for Innovation Studio. Innovation Studio is a nonprofit here in Boston and serves Boston and Rhode Island. We, in addition to operating innovation spaces like here at District Hall, the Roxbury Innovation Center, and a small biz bodega in Providence, we also offer entrepreneurship services. And so we really focus on that very early idea stage, helping them to get to a point where we can then pass them on to our great partners in the continuum to get them to that next step. And so thankful you guys are all here. We hope you enjoy yourselves, and I'll talk to you a little bit later.
Sounds good. I'll hand it back to you to kick off our panel here.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for spending your Friday with us. My name is Marisa Nieves. I'll be moderating. I know I don't like when people read off a bio because I don't know what to do with myself. So I'm just going to have our great panelists introduce themselves. I would share a little bit of background about why this panel? Because it's something that's really important, and I think going full circle, I was at the Monday event with SQL, and I wrote it down because it was so, it hit hard, and I was like, wow, this is perfect for our panel. But the founder of SQL said that, she started off and she said you can share innovation because it makes it able for companies to attract and hire folks who don't live together. And it allows people to share their talents, which was amazing because I don't think she knew that we were going to have this panel just a few days later. But we started off on that foot of we can attract. Innovation really breeds that space for entrepreneurship and global entrepreneurship. So, ladies, what are our connections to global entrepreneurship, and who are you, the little blurb?
Sofia.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here, Jason, Marisa. I love these spaces. Personally, I work with Latino founders through my venture capital firm, Excel Hub Venture Partners. So we support Latinos from Latin America that want to scale into the United States. So we are that bridge for them. Right. I also support business owners here, Latino business owners in Massachusetts through Alpha, which is the largest association of Latino professionals in the country. And my passion is to see Latinos thrive, right? That only 2% of Latino women are getting venture capital funds, and we need to change that. So we need these discussions. We need to highlight the positive contributions of our community, and this is the right way to. We all can hear about it.
Good. My name is Sunny Zhang. I am a founding partner at Born Global Ventures. I'm also a marketing professor at University of St. Thomas. I've been teaching marketing, management, entrepreneurship, e-commerce, blah, blah, blah for the past 20 years. But today's event is very special for me because I've been collaborating with Sofia and Preeti, and we've been doing things over COVID virtually, many times. And thanks to Jason, and special shout out to our friend Steve, also at Prepare for VC and Boston New Technology, for bringing us together in person. This is actually our first time meeting each other in person, and also shout out to a lot of friends in the audience that we get to meet in person, including Ara and Andy and Steve and so many more. So, it really means a lot because there's no border really online when we're collaborating, but I think the magic of being in person also makes it very special. I just wanted to highlight that. And I can't wait to share more about what I do and why we are doing it, but I'm also going to pass it to my great friend, Preeti. We actually met each other when we were both getting into the venture capital space at Brad Feld Venture Deal Summer Camp. Yeah, like she was not even in my team. I started a team called Global Innovation Partners, and then all the global-minded people just selected into my team. She liked it so much, in spite of the fact that she was not, she reached out and she was like, Sunny, we need to chat. And ever since, so that's what I'm passing on to Preeti so you can learn more about the awesome work she's doing.
Thank you, Sunny. Hi, everybody. My name is Preeti Adhikhary. I'm the founder of the Great Nepali Diaspora. What it is a community of global Nepali professionals. I'm originally from Nepal, but lived all over the world, worked in all kinds of industries. And what I realized is good ideas are everywhere, right? But opportunities aren't. And the best thing I felt like I could do with my experience as well as my network was to be the connector, to really connect people with opportunities. And that's why I think, I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm on this panel today. So thanks.
Great, thank you all. Just to start to, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that this isn't going to be your normal panel where we're just going surface level. Like, we're going to have these conversations and we want you to feel comfortable to ask the questions that you really want to know. So we'll start off with just some questions, but then turn it to you to lead the rest of the discussion with our great panelists. So I know there is a textbook definition of what an entrepreneur is. You can look it up. But from your perspectives, what is an entrepreneur? What makes an entrepreneur successful? And how can someone become an entrepreneur? I know in the line of work I do, a lot of folks don't recognize or identify as an entrepreneur or don't think it's for them. So how would you kind of change that narrative? What is an entrepreneur? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Give me that sensory experience from your perspectives.
You know, this morning I was actually reflecting on what it is to be an entrepreneur. And in Spanish, entrepreneurs mean emprendimiento, which it translates into a traveler. You go into an adventure. And that's the most beautiful way to describe entrepreneurship, because you get ready to that adventure. You know your landscape, you know where you're going, you study the country, the language, the culture, your market, right? And then you found yourself, like, get funds, how I'm gonna make it happen. And if you enjoy it, you have a beautiful journey. So entrepreneurship to me is someone that is willing to go explore and is learning and enjoying that
Round of applause for Sofia. So just when she shared that perspective, I'm gonna completely ditch what I had in mind before. Because from what we're focused, the foreign-born and immigrant perspective, I was actually drafting this post about myself being a 3-time immigrant. The first time was when I left the country I was born and came to the country I call home, you know, as a foreign-born American. The second time was when I left, when I ventured from academia. I know a lot of you guys are still doing your, research. Ventured from academia to entrepreneurship, starting my company, being a business owner. The third time was myself from the venture builder to the venture investor, getting into venture capital, starting a fund. Every time I felt like I'm a newcomer in a foreign land. So that's why I felt like kudos to the Hispanic or Spanish definition of entrepreneur. It is really the journey of exploration. And it's not about geographical, political boundaries. It's really about, where you work comfortably, but not willing to just settle and continue. Regardless of the language. And I'll do a quick example. Like, how many of you know what is MVP before you get into startup side? It's English, right? But nobody knows what it means. It's not just language barrier. There's also mentality is another one. It's not the capital or whatever. Sometimes we kill ourselves, Anyways, we'll get to that other area. But back to the definition, I still wanted to share my own perspective before I followed Sofia's direction. I really believe everybody is born an entrepreneur. I felt like all the kids, for me, entrepreneurship is creative problem solving, using all resources that you can get to identify a problem, solve the problem, and actually, apply and benefit more people than that, like small one. So I actually believe that every kid had it when they were little. They'll do everything it takes. Unfortunately, as we all grow up, our entrepreneurial spirit gets killed and killed and killed. I really believe we are corrupted by adulthood, and we're dominated by professionalism, that our inner child, our creativity is just being killed as we're growing up. And I really believe everybody should at least have 2 lives. One is the life that you are born into, you're expected by the society, which also kills us. The other life is the moment you decide, I'm going to do what I wanted to do. Forget about all the expectations of society and start my second life. And hopefully once you start that, you will start more and more just venture into new territories and continue to identify problems and solve problems. That was what I was gonna share, but I'm glad that we could converge together, to update our definition of entrepreneurship in a broader sense, and not just, are you a starter founder? If you're not, you're out of here. No, everybody. Thank you.
I can't top that, but I think with a lot of things in life, we're given these definitions, right? What does a startup founder look like? What does an investor look like, and so on. And now I think that we shouldn't really box ourselves with these definitions, right? The ideal world, in my view, is where there are entrepreneurs that look like you and me and everybody in this room. There are investors that look like us, because unless you actually see these people, you can't become them, right? So I think it's 2023. It's all about breaking away from that traditional definition of startup founders. Whether you decide to quit school and become a founder, or whether you spend 10, 15 years in your domain and then start a venture, it's completely fine. I think it doesn't matter, and I think either way you can succeed. So for me, entrepreneurship is all about that freedom, right? That freedom to choose the life you want, and also to break away from the traditional ways of the society.
You all touched upon breaking molds and innovation at the core of it. So really finding your creativity to follow whatever that path is. But a lot of times people don't have that opportunity. When we think about quarters, there's a clear start and end to it. But how do folks move from, I have this idea, to actually making it happen, especially in a transient society? There are folks who have to go through visa processes, paperwork. What is some of that reality? And what's the competitive advantage of being a diverse founder?
We're looking into this direction again, Sofia.
Okay, so you have to see this reality from different perspectives. Right? One is the barriers that the system creates for you to emprender, for you to start your venture. So immigration is a huge issue. I was a worker, then I was an international student, then I was an investor. So how to deal with that system to demonstrate that you have so much to give to the country, right? To the country where you are. So you have to, I wish the system was more friendly to what we have to bring to us. The other side is how you should be bold and defend what you have, those solutions, those unique perspective of solving problems, and not try to blend, because then you lose your uniqueness, right? And then with that, you are losing the region, the sparkle of your company, right? The identity of your company. So I will definitely then go for defending your immigrant story, defending, putting your unique perspective out there, and feel proud of where you're coming from and what you bring to the table as a diverse founder, as a diverse investor, and try to find that alignment among your community, among your investors, and among other founders that are just like you, because those are the people that understand you the most, and those are the people that will open doors for you. So if you are loyal to those core values and core priorities, then you will find your tribe. So sometimes because you're an immigrant, you feel like you are an outsider, but there are other people like you that is willing to open doors and help you and love what you're doing. And this is, to me, the true innovation ecosystem. and it's made by immigrants that think different and they're willing to disrupt because they have no choice. They have to make it happen. I have to make it happen because I have family in Colombia it has a lot of expectations about me. I'm the first one to get a bachelor's degree, to get a master's degree, to come to the US, to build a company. So there is a lot of, a lot that I have to prove, and I have no choice. I have to make it happen one way or the other. Plus, I want to build an empire. I believe that working at corporate America will increase my revenue, and I don't have a cap for that, and I want to just continue. And the way to do that is through entrepreneurship. That's how you build economic growth.
I always secretly want to call her Queen Sofia. I don't know why. I didn't even know she wanted to build an empire, but I felt like she has that queen in her. Don't you guys think?
Right. This is her empire. We're just in it.
Yeah, I always wanted to introduce you, like meet Queen Sofia somehow. I didn't even know that was at the back of her mind. So, anyways, I guess to follow that, I wanted to really change the narrative. I felt like when we talk about diversity, usually we play victims of underrepresented and all that. Let me tell you. So from the immigrant perspective, did you know that 55% of US unicorns have at least one foreign-born/unicorn founder? And did you know in US population, immigrants only count for 14%? And then I know, especially, speaking of international students, did you know that among immigrant founders, 25% among unicorn founders in the United States, 25% came to the country as an international student, as opposed to only 4% of U.S. students are international students. Let me rephrase it and repeat this. So 4% of the international students among all U.S. population built 25% of U.S. unicorns, guys. And 14% of U.S. population as immigrants built 55% of U.S. unicorns. Isn't that shocking? They are disproportionately successful. And I haven't even shared with you the data that shows 36% of U.S. innovation were generated by immigrant foreign-born researchers, innovators. This is backed by hard data of patent. Like, essentially, if you also look deeper, foreign-born researchers, STEM researchers, are twice likely to file for patent than native-born. And they actually collaborate with native-born. I wanted to emphasize, when we talk about diversity, we don't want to go to the other extreme. We want to emphasize the collaboration between foreign-born and native-born because they work together. And foreign-born entrepreneurs are twice likely to start companies. And 25% of all U.S. Startups are founded by foreign-born entrepreneurs. So essentially, with that data, and now we find ourselves in Boston. By the way, I came from Houston, where 1 in 4 Houstonians are foreign-born. Did you know the data in Boston? By the way, this is Boston friends. Did you know what's the percentage of foreign-born population among Bostonians, or is that the word?
Yeah, Bostonians.
Okay, yeah, because Houstonians. Do you guys have any stats on that? Yes.
Depending on how you define foreign, so pretty
Okay.
much everyone here.
You know what?
We took this well.
It's so true. It's another day. Like, what do you mean by immigrant? Right now, just to keep it simple, if you're not born here, this is how I put it. There are 2 kinds of Americans, guys. Those by birth and those by choice. They're both Americans. Just because they're foreign-born doesn't mean they're foreigners. They're actually local. They're Bostonians here. That's the reason sometimes when people argue, we need to take care of our locals before we take care of our international. What are you talking about? We are locals. We've been here for decades, and we make babies here and grandbabies, right? It's almost like this country that's built.
Right?
Yeah, we choose to be here. The country that's built by immigrants somehow forgot about our roots and start to have a lot of prejudice against them. But again, going back to my starting point, let's change that narrative and emphasize and celebrate and highlight the fact that immigrants are the engine and the drive of U.S. innovation and entrepreneurship and economy and job creation and high-paying jobs too. All right.
All right, I just found the stats. Boston, 29% of our population is foreign.
That is on our Born Global Boston meet and greet event page. Thank you, Steve.
Awesome. No, I completely agree with Sunny in terms of changing the immigrant narrative, right? I think the story so far has been that we're all victims, we're all sad, and we all need help. And, which is true in some cases, right? But, when you look at today's stats, like Sunny said, the immigrant population is also educated, powerful, rich, and ready to contribute. So how do we actually leverage that, right? As, when you're a founder, in today's age, you don't have to feel like you're doing this on your own. The fact that we're here on this panel talking about this topic is all to share that there is a community. It doesn't matter whether you're from Nepal or Latino or whatever, that there is a community there to support you. And I think I also want to share this story that happened a couple of weeks ago, right? I was at this event in New York. It was all immigrant founders and investors. So it was almost like a closed door thing, packed house. And for me, I've been in so many different events, but that event, it felt like people were real for a change, right? So there was this question, somebody asked that, he wanted to start a company and he was thinking of dropping out of school, and how do I tell my parents? How do I tell my immigrant parents that I wanted to, drop out of school and build something, right? And I've heard this question so many times, and in normal situations, you get this diplomatic answer, right? If you really are passionate about it, just ignore whatever everybody else says. Go ahead, build your company, and things like that. But on that day, on that panel, people talked about the reality, right? And how perception makes a difference. Like, for example, somebody actually suggested that it might actually be better for a founder to actually stay in school, get a job for a few years, learn the skills, build that network. It's something that, it sort of made me think like we always take being an immigrant as, as a weakness, as something that sort of gives us a disadvantage, right? But in a way that, our situation also maybe even prepares us to be really good at this, right? So I think the need now is also to, change all of that, not have that victim mentality and really look around and see the communities we've built and really leverage them. So, that's what I'm hoping.
I love all this, and it's really clear that the lived experience of folks is also a driving factor for their creativity. Sometimes that's forced creativity, forced innovation, but it has such a huge impact in ways that they may not have ever imagined. But a lot of it goes to show the power of community and how sometimes you need that person to show you that you can get there. You have support, but how, if they don't know where to go, how do they find that support? How do they find that community through accelerators or just finding connections to funders so that they can get that step into that door and take their next risk and next leap?
Sofia, get started or?
No, I guess that if you decided to go on that road, you want to emprender. That means you have the ability to be strategic, right? You have to design that roadmap. And then you have a baby. So how do you make sure that you feed your baby with everything that it needs? So you start being super intentional. You need to be very intentional on how you spend your time, your energy, and where you put your focus, and how you prioritize your life and your baby. So I am very strategic, right? I know that at my age I don't have the luxury to waste time. And I learned that I have to align with people that understand me because it's easier, right? And we as immigrants, or me as a Latina, we cannot afford to wait because there is a lot of competition and the world is changing and solutions are changing all the time. We cannot wait. So you have to be intentional and align with the people that believe in you. So and also be strategic, open your eyes and see where they are, right? Like start visualizing and understanding what is happening around you and connect the dots, right? Just Google Latino in Boston, just Google Asian in Boston, just Google Colombia founders in Boston. I don't know, like you find those words that will allow you to understand that, understand the ecosystem and navigate the ecosystem, and go out there and connect with people. I will say the easier way for me was to connect with other Colombians, right? And then I was like, oh, where are the smartest Colombians? I wanna, like at school, like you wanna be next to the one that is super smart. I mean, it is we call it proximity. So use the law of proximity and connect with the people that will help you open more doors and look for the multiply factor, right? Like who are those people, or which is that community that is so big that will allow you to meet more people that is like you. So just be strategic and smart about, and don't be shy. Just go out there and put yourself and use your unique perspective, your story as a connector.
That's great advice. I would say, that got your step one covered, right? You find your tribe. But today I want to introduce the concept of the galaxy of innovation. The galaxy, which is not the star network, because usually we are naturally in the star network. And let me explain. By the way, this is my dissertation topic about social networks and how people's attitude and decision making are affected as a way, as a result of ties trends and network structure. Anyways, but let me visualize for you. Usually we find ourselves naturally in a star network, meaning, either your immediate family, your friends, your ethnicity community, or your country of origin community, or your professional community. Like you're a geologist, and you're like all geologist friends at work. And you see, what I'm trying to do as a result of my dissertation is so-called interconnecting otherwise disconnected community. And that's why we call it born global. It doesn't really matter which star network you're at. What we want to do is to interconnect all these star networks, because that's how we create and add value. If you think about how business started originally, it's the imbalanced distribution of resources, right? We exchange. And that's what happens when we are able to connect otherwise disconnected networks. And that's not just by countries or language or even industry. The family offices, guess what? They have plenty of capital. They don't have the deal flow. And then, accelerator, incubator, like essentially all these different islands in the venture ecosystem, we could just bring them together. That's really when we do boom. So instead of looking for like-minded people, I actually would encourage you all to go look for different-minded people, so that you can actually find, perspective that you weren't thinking before, and really add value, and find the missing dots in your company, find people who have complementary skill set. And going back to my earlier point about, immigrant and foreign-born entrepreneurs needs to work with native-born entrepreneurs, because together you can cover the world. The native-born founders can actually make friends with foreign-born founders and take their companies and go globally scale much faster. You're almost like you're taking the shortcut, and vice versa. So that's what I mean by the galaxy model of global innovation, where we forget about our differences, or say, no, don't forget. We appreciate and we value our differences, and we embrace and we go look for those differences, because that's how you create more value. That's how you tap into market and penetrate with zero resistance. And I'll elaborate on that more, because it's not just innovation, guys. It's also resistance, innovation, and market penetration, and all of those, after that step one. So that's what I wanted to add on top of Sofia's point, like how do you get out of your own little universe to connect, and then how do you then further, get into this galaxy of innovation so that we can all be in this area.
That's step 2.
Let's continue to explore the universe.
Continue on.
No, I'd like to, just talk a little bit about why I started the Great Nepali Diaspora. I think it's a mixture of both things, right? So it's a community of people from Nepal, and it sounds very specific, and it is. What I realized is, when you talk about, immigrant communities, ethnic communities, we have really tight social bonds, right? But we're not really connected on a professional level. So what I realized as a student or as a working professional is, I have amazing friends, amazing, family, and so on, but we would never talk about work or professional hurdles or how to really lift on each other up professionally. And I thought that was so weird, right? So what I'm hoping to do is teach people that are already socially connected to network in a safe space. I think that's needed as well, right? Where people can connect on in smaller spaces, we feel really safe to learn these things and then do that cross-pollination. I so agree with that ecosystem, but I think, whatever community we're building, I think that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to create small, safe spaces where people can make mistakes, they can figure out things, they can connect to experts, and then when they're ready to sort of explore things on their own, they can, be a part of the bigger ecosystem. I think that's where a lot of magic happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need one of those indeed.
And kind of flipping sides a little bit, in the past few years, it's been evident that folks are really trying to invest more in diverse founders, whatever diverse might mean to that company or to that person. When it comes to a funder side, how can a funder manage that relationship between impact and intent? Because someone may want to invest, but someone could also be appeared as a token for their investment. How do they ensure that there's that equity in the space with investing in diverse founders?
Yes. As a founder, you also need to do your due diligence, right? And make sure that the people that you're allowing into your venture, right? Your partners, the ones that will support you with money, are there for the right intentions, because you want to create an impact, and it starts with the people that is next to you, right? So do your due diligence and make sure that your investors, they really mean what they're trying to do with you. Diversity, how diverse is your company, right? Equity, how are you paying your team? Inclusion, like who is in your team? Let me see those numbers as well. Because it's important that we demand the things that we want to see. But if we don't ask, then there is no need for it. So we as consumers, but as a founders, we also have power to see them and interview and make them think on what are you missing, right? And how you can be better at embracing those 3 letters and definitely put your money where your mouth is, right? So due diligence and aligning with the ones that share the same values as your venture and as you.
Yeah, please.
No, I was gonna say, you invest in diverse founders not because they're diverse, because they're amazing, right? I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, there are so many, underrepresented founders I know that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and I don't think anybody's giving them these dollars because they're from this country, because they're this gender, or anything like that, right? They're the best people to solve those problems. They have the best team, they have the best technology. Being diverse is just this extra amazing thing, right? So it's almost like it's not, of course, I so agree in terms of aligning with investors and making sure they're going to be part of your journey. As a founder, but the diverse founders we see are just incredible, and they would be amazing even if they were not diverse, right? So they would be it would be a good business decision to fund them either way.
I don't even know where to start because has anybody seen immigrant under the diversity umbrella? I don't know. I do not know the answer of that question. I think we just need to revisit the definition of diversity. Are we talking about our looks? Are we talking about our cognitive abilities? Are we talking about our cultural backgrounds? I don't know. So it's very hard to, but bottom line, if you're talking about venture investing is based on return and on scalability. That's prerequisite. There's no question about that. And then, of course, there are investors that cares about impact and care about making a difference, where you have to have both return and impact. But the return, I'm talking about the truth in venture capital industry. That's the bottom line. And then if you are able to identify investment thesis, for example, I have a lot of VC friends, they focus on female founders. It's not for representation. Of course, the fact that only 2% of women getting funds is depressing. We need to fix that. But the real reason when they go pitch to their LPs is because women founders actually perform higher. Not because, okay, there's not enough women, so let's, allocate more money so that we have more statistics. No, it's because for every dollar you invest, they actually have higher return. So again, you have to raise based on performance and merit and what you can deliver, and not because, okay, let's make the table look more colorful or more variety. We have to go deeper than that because, fundamentally, I understand, I think everybody understands, diversity drives innovation. The mediation factor is creativity, because creativity by definition is divergent thinking, not convergent thinking. So it's fundamentally driving creativity and then turn into innovation and turn into entrepreneurship, venture capital return and all that. So that whole value chain has to be there. But I have to say, it depends on how we define diversity. I felt like, somehow we just have to pause and think, what kind of diversities are we talking about? And is it time we broaden the definition of diversity, going deeper to think about what makes us great collectively? Almost like back to Preeti's example, on the surface, it looks like people from Nepal, right? But they are in every profession. There are lawyers, doctors, dancers, performers, government officials, astronauts, that's like, you see what I mean? So essentially, you can't just okay, they're all in the police, so it must be like a homogeneous population. I'm just saying that there are so many layers and dimensions when it comes to make these definitions. So I just felt like when we start a discussion on any topic, let's pause and think, what do we mean by this? Like, how do we define this? And then let's stay on the same page.
Who wrote the
making sure-
definition for it?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, what is venture capital again? If we're talking venture, or what do we mean by investment? Are we talking about financial investment, or our social investment, or human investment? Like social capital, human capital, like there's all kinds of investment. So that's why I just felt like let's pause, reflect, have a clear definition of what are we discussing, and then we go from there. But I always felt like it never gets old whenever we visit these kind of topics. In fact, you don't talk about diversity without talking about inclusion. We want to use this slogan called zero exclusion, because sometimes, unfortunately, when I work with women in AI, for example, we don't want this to be only ladies, right? We want zero exclusion as we emphasize, and that's why, on our community side, we support both foreign-born and native-born, but just like men and women, not just like men on Earth. You see what I mean? Like, we need to be intentionally inclusive and zero exclusion.
Yes, 100%. Which leads to my last question about intentionality. We're going beyond borders, but we're in Boston right now, which is not only a hub of immigration, but innovation, creativity. We have so many universities here, so many brilliant people who come and then also leave to share their talents. But how do we retain the talent that's brought to Boston? Or our local communities if we're in Houston. How do we retain that and make sure that there is an intentional community of support?
Okay, I'm gonna talk from my own work, my own way to team time. So I work with Latino professionals, and I have the opportunity to meet a lot of international students. So I identify the ones that are willing to get mentored, and I ask, what do you need? What are you looking for, right? So try to connect them. Like if they're looking for someone to sponsor their OPT because they want to start their startup here, let's open a door for you. You deserve a place. You have talent, you have vision. I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to connect you with 3 to 4 people that I know that are looking for diverse talent, and let's make it happen. And the same alignment, like, okay, what do you do for founders, right? Like, are you the right partner for us? What do you do for women? Are you the right partner for us? So it's again like being strategic, aligned with the right people, and being intentional at any opportunity. You have the opportunity to help, just do it. Don't think 2 times, right? They don't have to, immigrants, they don't need to go through the same hurdles that you went. And if we want to see our different communities thrive, we have to uplift them and just launch them.
Okay. So I just thought I could agree with Sofia more. But I also wanted to really emphasize the crisis we're experiencing right now. The United States is losing the global talent war. We're losing global talents to Canada, to UK, to Germany, to Singapore, to Japan, and more. All of those countries have extremely positive policies that attracts international talents to build companies and contribute to their economies. So if we don't do better than this, imagine once we don't have the cheap labor that powers our research lab. Seriously, that's the first thing I looked. Whenever Moderna comes up, whenever the nuclear breakthrough came up, I always look into like who's in the lab, Can we run our labs without the postdocs? Who's going to power the ongoing innovation? So I wanted to highlight that. And then to follow Sofia's point, what can we do from a ground up perspective? We need to support them better. I came to the United States 20 years ago as an international student who did not have any friends and family. Why did I stay here? Because I found my friends and family among other international students. Literally, I met my life partner, who's also my co-GP, founding partner at Born Global Ventures, literally because we were all international students and we became friends and family and business partners together for the past 20 years.
Sunny, I learned Portuguese before I learned English while I was studying English because many of them were Portuguese and
Yes. So yeah, I just wanted to add that personal anecdote. But then specifically, what are we doing? We often complain about lack of access to capital, but it's not just financial capital. In fact, that's my investment thesis. We need not only financial capital, which I use little finger. We need to invest with, number one, intellectual capital, which is knowledge, expertise, strategic planning, navigation, and there's a lot of them out there embracing. In fact, my great friend Andy's live on LinkedIn. Follow her so that you can learn all the amazing intellectual capital shared by her and her amazing guests. So, number two, human capital. When you're building, it's very rare. Of course, there's solo founders, but you need a team. So where are you going to identify the talents to join your team? So human capital, very importantly. And then social capital, back to my dissertation. Social capital is the connections, the networks, without which you will never bring your product out of your closet, your garage or your research lab to the marketplace commercialization. You need that social network. And together, that's the kind of support we're gonna need to maintain talents. Not just like, here's a check, good luck, we bring you the return. And that's also the reason when we identified all the gaps in the ecosystem, we started our venture studio, and that's a model where we not only put our money as investors, we also co-build. We have the back office of developers, researchers, analysts, the legal, the accounting, the finance, fundraising, like all it takes so that the founder, we usually are subject domain experts, but then lack of all the other capital support, will have everything it takes so they can focus on what they do the best. So I just wanted to use that as example of how can we substantially address the challenges and how can we literally offer all it takes to keep them here so that they can build great companies and continue to power this nation as the most innovative nation in the world. Otherwise, when we lose our global talents, I don't know what's going to happen. So we need to continue supporting them. And I also wanted to maybe just share, the involvement with the studio we added the fund, but going back to the earlier point of, the diversity discussion, like separating the nonprofit, the community building part from your company. We were very intentional in terms of establishing a 501c3 nonprofit organization called Born Global Community, where we share resources, we bring everyone together. We have a global and national network, but we also have local chapters, just like here, we have a gathering in Boston. And I felt like from a network theory, to your point of how do we keep people, make the network sticky. Have the support so that they feel good, they feel like their full potential can be realized, and they will feel home here. And they don't want to go anywhere else because this will be their true home.
I know I shouldn't go after something, but when you talk about any kind of innovation hub and so on, it's not the buildings, right? It's not you can create this city of innovation, and you can have these amazing buildings and things to do and things like that. but you're not really meeting people where they are, right? You can't just expect to have this investment and then just expect people to walk in, right? What I mean is, everything you guys shared in terms of really understanding what is the need of the people. You might think it's, an amazing pantry and, beer on tap or whatever for startup founders, while they're struggling with visa issues, which are so real that, all of us understand, and, a lot of those kind of things. So really, what makes it intentional is when you really understand what's driving these people, right? I think it's so easy to feel like, oh, we're doing the right thing and so on, while you're not really actually seeing the problem. So for immigrant founders and everything, it's the challenges are so real and so different. So to retain that global talent, and especially in Boston, where there are so many amazing universities and so many students coming in, they're here, right? You just have to not let them leave, right? So it's an easier problem than if they never came to Boston, right? So it's an interesting problem to solve. Right?
So I'm hearing we need to be very people-centric and understanding that everyone has a story, but we can learn from their story. They can contribute because of their story, and they can find a community because of the talents they bring with them. But we need to keep that at the forefront. Last question, answer in under 30 seconds. Sunny, you can do it. What is your call to action for everyone today after this panel? What do you want them to remember or to move forward thinking?
All right, so I am gonna be calling for my foreign-born entrepreneur friends. It's time that we don't just stay as the workhorse and keep our head down and be invisible. Please be proud of what you bring. Please be celebrating our achievements and also collaborating and just contributing. And I also wanted to, call my native-born friends to embrace our foreign-born entrepreneurs and innovators in this country, so that they feel like being seen, because they tend to do the hard work and keep the head down and not, look for trouble. But there's just so much more we should celebrate and we should highlight. And it's time we all embrace the galaxy of innovation. Let's all be the explorers, right? And embracing what the whole universe brings to us, because it's really the unknown that brings the most unexpected. And I felt like that's what motivates all of us. Anyways, it feels a little broad, but I hope that spirit stays with you, because it's a reminder for us to keep embracing our differences and keep bringing everyone together to add more value. Yes.
I'll go next. Mine is going to be much simpler. I hope everybody just learns to ask, right? I think we sometimes focus so much on the bigger things, and we try to build in a vacuum and, do all of that. But the simplest thing you can do in life is to ask questions, right? There are people willing to help and support, but if you don't say it, nobody knows. So I hope everybody does that.
Can I ask? Can I add? Ask shamelessly.
Exactly.
Shamelessly ask.
Don't overthink.
Yeah, don't overthink. So I definitely support that.
Queen, bring us home.
Yes, Queen Sofia.
It's complex, but I will try. So, call to action for founders to be more proud of what they have, right? To understand that they have a very unique solution that deserves to be heard, deserves to be funded, and deserves to be out there solving the need, right? So feel proud about what you have for your solution. Feel proud about your story as an immigrant, right? Live with that story because you're unique. And when you have that authentic leadership at the front of your everything that you do, that becomes a bridge for you to connect with the people that you need. And for the community to be more of at least matchers, and try to be givers, right? Add value in every way you can. That's how you contribute to a better society, because we have a lot of dangers, but let's try to be more givers, more matchers, and support in every way we can, especially with immigrants. Just be friendly to immigrants, right?
Be nice.
Be nice to them.
Yes.
Because somebody you know is going to make a unicorn.
That's right. Yes. And if you have the opportunity to invest in immigrants, do it. Do it because you really want
Put
to.
your money where your mouth is.
That's right.
Invest in these immigrant, foreign-born, diverse founders because they shape everything that's around us. I know I am so grateful to have been up here with you lovely panelists, and it's been making me think so much. My goal is to have this conversation spark a lot of questions and concepts, and that's been rattling through my brain. So thank you, Jason and Steve from Prepare for VC, for having this panel and for it to be on sequel. It was great to be at that panel on Monday and see how it's come full circle. I know we have another panel now. So thank you all.
Good job. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, great job, and stick around we're gonna have another panel right after this. So, yeah, great job. Sure. You can take a picture.
Jason, you should be here.
Oh, yeah.
Jason, you should come.
As long as that doesn't
Take
fall.
my phone too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Your shirt.
There we go. Cool.
That's fine.
Oh, thank you.
Take yours. Jason, do you want one yourself?
Sure.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
Sounds good. Great.
I thought
Perfect.
it was.
But I'm gonna be back and next time.
But you know, it's good to share thoughts.
These are hard problems.
Yeah.
That's great.
Big problems too.
Yeah.
I'm
surprised no one touched on it.
Oh, of course. Well, that going to for. We have to share with Allison. Allison. No, we have a common friend. Sorry.
Don't get
Yes. Oh, yeah, Allison. Yes, Allison. So it is Allison. That's why I felt like, is that, it is Allison. Yeah, I appreciate the work you do. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, great first panel, and really excited for our next panel on the power of good leaderships and strong partnerships. So I'm going to hand it over to Ashley and Parnas to moderate.
All right. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hey.
Did you feel the passion in the last session? Weren't they great?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. Today our topic is going to be focused on community. One of the reasons I'm here today is because of one of my communities, which is Jason and Prepare for VC, and courtesy of this community, I get to meet all of you. So that's the power of community. So I'm Harna, and I'm the founder of Brand and Buzz Marketing. We work with companies that are looking to pivot, fundraise, get acquired, and of course, when I started my career at iRobot, that was an IPO. So I love what I do, and I've had the privilege of working with a variety of companies, of which 5 got acquired, 4 had a very successful fundraise, and of course 1 I'm here. So love what I do. So today we're going to talk about community, and we have 2 amazing experts to be sharing their thoughts on community, why startup founders especially need communities around them. So with that, I'm going to ask you to kick off with the introduction.
So, hi everybody. I'm Ashley again, and I'm with Innovation Studio. And we actually operate what I would say innovation centers, which we look at as a community. And so we are the managers and operators right now of District Hall, as well as the Roxbury Innovation Center, and a smaller facility in Providence called Biz Bodega. And our goal for these facilities is to really bring people together and be inclusive in that. And so I think early on what we found, we were actually coming up on our 10th year here. And so what we found is really the community really needs people. And so there is this theory that if you build it, they will come. And it doesn't work. We probably get at least a handful times a year people from around the country who want to build one of these and say, can you tell me how? And that's what I always say, this is not that movie where if you build it, they will come. You have to build it and bring people and work together, and that's what we do.
Excellent.
Hi everyone, excited to be here today. Thank you for VC, TechCrunch, and the other amazing partners who created this event, as well as inviting to join. My name is Ariel Shai, and I am the Program Director at Sela Innovation and Element 46 Accelerator. I am also the founder and leader of a community called Hamitapisti of New York, which is a community of over 900 business women in tech in New York, which I lead alongside my amazing team of community managers. Excited to be here today, as I said, and to share my perspective on communities, partnerships, and leadership.
Excellent. So I also just want to let you guys know that we'd like to make this an interactive session, not just talk to you, but really have a discussion with you. So as we're having our conversation here, if you have a question, want to make a comment, please just raise your hand and we'll be happy to chat. All right.
I just wanted to add that Ariel is also one of the collaborators we had over time.
Oh my God.
And shout out to her, sorry.
All right, so let's start with everybody has different terms of community, and community could be different for different people. What does it mean to you?
It's a tough one, right? There are so many different meanings to community, and I think if we focus in on the startup ecosystem and the small business startup ecosystem, it's really like-minded people who come together to build each other up. And I think that's really important. So as I mentioned, running a facility like this, no one really knew what this was going to become when it was built 10 years ago. And what we found was it took all of these people to come in. It took collaboration of so many different groups in an ecosystem to come together and support one another for it to be successful. You can't do it alone. And I think that's the most important part is within a community, you really need those people who are going to support one another and have each other's back and not hold each other down. Because, what is it? All boats rise together, right? And that's what I think we believe community is at Innovation Studio and want to help to foster. Excellent.
Yes, yes, and agree with everything that you said. For me, communities are everything. It's a way for people to expand their network and their reach, gain knowledge opportunities and growth opportunities. It's a place where founders can overcome different types of obstacles, so they won't feel alone in their entrepreneurial journey when they get to meet other founders, experienced founders, or founders that are struggling with the same challenges. A place where you can find support and have that sense of belongingness. And I'll give an example. Before I created Hamitapisti of New York community, I went to different types of events and networked with people. And in some ways, sometimes I felt kind of lonely and embarrassed to start creating those conversations and interacting with people, because it's always kind of embarrassing, even if you enjoy speaking to others. And I was also, for COVID, missing that space of getting to know other people and expanding my network. So I decided to create our community in order to have a space where I can meet other people and grow my personal career further, as well as support others and getting connected to others. And being a part of that community and getting to know our community members, for me, helped me grow further and helped me feel that I'm able to support our community members and able to support others in growing their career further. So communities for me are a source of growth and a place to nurture your relationships and your career as well.
Excellent. So personally, I kind of go with the previous panel where they're talking about being an immigrant. So when I came here many years ago, I was supposed to have been here only three months, because as my husband finished his PhD, but as the story goes, here we are. So when I came here, I really didn't know anybody other than him. I didn't go to school here, so I had like nothing, right? So that's where I started, and now I feel like I have so many different communities that I'm part of. And like in the beginning, from a career standpoint, for every company that I would work at, I'll create some kind of a technology community, whether it's innovation, whether it's, you name it, but those were fall work. When COVID hit, I'm also a member of Women in Technology International. When COVID hit and we shut down, within 72 hours, like I worked with Witty Corporate and we launched Wind Down with Witty and Tea with Witty. So every week we'll do like two sessions to just, kind of provide a platform for everybody to come and talk. And I used to normally run the Wind Down with Witty at 8 o'clock at night, because I'm more of an evening person, night person. And one day I just realized that we had, and that was at 8 at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody from Germany, 4 o'clock somewhere in like India. It was just amazing that people were in different time zones, and midnight, early morning, late night, and they were there. And it wasn't because we wanted to sell anything or talk about careers, but it was just amazing that we now have this network of people that we talk just because we want to talk, And of course, that supported whether there were startups, whether there were just people coming out to talk. So community has evolved so much. I think that kind of often begs the question that, especially for startups, right? They have limited time. There are so many accelerators, there's so many groups. How do you find the right community to start with? Obviously, you can join 30 of them, but how do you pick the one to get you going? Do you understand?
Yes, thank you. Yes, there are dozens of amazing communities, great communities for you, and they might be great communities that are great for other people. So I would start by, first of all, trying to identify your own needs. Why are you looking to join a community? What would you like to gain out of being a part of a community? What kind of support are you looking to get, and how can you support the community members back? Are you looking, where does the community live? Is it online? Is it in person? What are the values of a community? And are those values echoing with you? So it's not out different goals that you're trying to achieve from a community and the different types of communities that are out there. Whether if you're trying to find a community that is in the area of your expertise and experience, and you're trying to be more known in that sector, or you're trying to find a new community and learn of new things. and then try to join several communities and see what works better for you. Speak to community members, see if the community members speak to one another and are engaged with one another, or do the communication goes only through the leader? Depends on what you're looking for and how does the leadership in that community supports its community members. And for me, that's how I would decide which community to join to. And I would also say that if you can find that specific community to join after you tried several months, you can always try to create that community and that space that you want to be a part of. Same as how I did with the Community of New York community, and I'm also a member of other tech communities. But if you see that there's a gap, others might feel the same way. So sometimes if you really, they would come, but there's a lot of work behind it. It's not just like I'm creating it and people will come. You have to put out of your time, create value, create opportunities. And when you want to decide which community to join, see that they provide you with those opportunities and that you can contribute back as a member.
I think we were talking about incubators and accelerators, and as a startup, what is best? There's so many options, or there seems to be so many options. Which ones do you want to tap into? Which ones do you not? I don't know if there's a clear yes, right, or wrong answer in that. But I would say look for communities that support one another. And so if you're looking for an incubator accelerator, that's just one part of your journey. And a startup is it is a journey. I mean, let's be honest, this isn't just a pathway, this isn't, a short blog. You are really embarking on something, and just figure out where you are right now, what you need right now, but then who's gonna help you get to that next step after. And so, Marisa was here with the panel, and talk to her, talk to Jason. I mean, they know so much of the ins and outs here in Boston and they'll tell you, ours isn't right, but who might be great? Let me make an introduction to this person who is great and who will help you. And that's who you wanna kind of work with. Because if you talk to somebody like, yeah, just order ours, we got this. That's a little bit of a red flag for me, so I like to work with other groups who are willing to say, nope, go to this person or go to that person because they'll serve you much better. And so it's almost like this interview of who's gonna help you now, but who are they gonna then pass you on to that next step in the journey? And that person, you want that person to then pass you on to the next step of your journey and help you get all the way to achieving that goal.
Really well said. I think what I would also add to that is, if you're a startup and you're looking to hire people, right? Would you not want to hire somebody you interacted with within that community? You know the person versus going through 3,000 resumes and picking somebody randomly, right? I mean, I think to me, as a startup founder myself, that is invaluable, because if I need an expertise or and the mentors that I have now are all from the community that we have created for ourselves. So I would say leverage the communities to do your next hires, because you probably find, or your co-founder if you're looking for one, right? I think also competitive edge is another thing that you get from your communities, right? And I look at, like, let's say the larger companies, whether it's Salesforce, they have their 2 million plus users, and they have DreamWorks,
Dream. We use them, and I see it on their website all the time. I can't think of it.
Dreamforce, sorry. I know that's anyway, so even Apple, like when they started out, remember Guy Kawasaki, who was like one of the evangelists who was creating it, right? And sometimes I feel like we forget about that competitive edge. So I wonder what advice you would give to startup founders on how they can either create a community, like you said, or be part of communities that would give them that edge.
Structuring it, so go ahead.
Okay, did I ask a tough question?
I think you did.
Okay.
So I think looking for people that are gonna help you achieve your personal goals. And so the one thing that I truly believe in is there's not one way to get from A to Z in your journey. There are a lot of paths and a lot of turns, and there are so many different things that play into that. And so I think sometimes you know, I've seen this specifically working here in the Seaport and working in Roxbury, for example. And so having two very different populations and two very different innovation centers, what I found is if you Google starting a business in Roxbury, you're gonna find a number of small business resources. If you Google starting a business in the Seaport, you're gonna find a whole lot of businesses that are gonna help you with a scalable startup or a tech-enabled venture. Why? Just because you live in Roxbury and you're Googling in Roxbury, or you live in the Seaport and you're Googling in Seaport, doesn't mean that you have to start a small business or you have to start a tech-enabled venture. And so really kind of thinking, what do I want to do? And then I think it's being able to pivot on your path, right? So you might have said, I'm gonna start this small business, and all of a sudden you're at this point, you're like, wow, I got something great here. So how do I pivot? And then you need to figure out who in that journey. And so not just cutting yourself short, I think is one thing. It's looking to your future and being able to pivot. And you might be a tech-enabled venture and be like, ooh, this is not where I wanna go. But this is a great small business. People make a ton of money and you know, you can make that empire in both ways, right? And that's okay. And so finding people who are gonna help you and be honest with you and steer you on what path that makes the most sense in that moment, and understand if you want to change that path, and understand that it doesn't matter where you're from or who you are, you can be on your own path.
That's really well said, especially the pivot, right? Because a lot of companies think pivoting means like you failed. But even large companies are pivoting. I mean, look at what many of the big companies had to do during COVID, right? They had to like use their technology to save lives or provide their manufacturing plant, you know, so vaccines could be made or what have you. Those are pivots too. But because I work with so many companies that are pivoting or doing something different, it's kind of the course of your business, whether you're a startup or not. If anybody tells you you haven't pivoted, I'd probably ask the question, really? Even my 5-year-old company, I had to pivot. So it's kind of a given. What do you think?
So many thoughts.
Go for it.
I would say that you can get that competitive edge when, well, there's a couple of things. So first of all, if we're talking about startups in the community, I would say don't be afraid to share the different challenges that you're facing. Don't be afraid to ask and to reach out to people, since they might be helping you down the line. And I want to talk about relationships as well, but I'll give an example with making those asks. Before I founded the 50th New York community, as I mentioned, I joined several tech communities as well. I wanted to support additional startup founders and grow my network further and help people get connected. So one of the communities I joined as a member was a community led by Monday.com, which I'm sure you've heard of. It's a large community with lots of investors and founders and tech professionals. And when I joined as a member, there were several founders who mentioned how they struggle in growing their team or hiring or finding their co-founder. So I reached out to the community leadership team and flagged that topic and offered to host an event of a co-founders matching event, which I previously hosted in the past, so I knew I can bring that. The leadership was in, we created that event, and a year after, one of the participants from that event reached out to me and thanked me, since he was able to find his co-founder through that co-founders matching event. They started working together and currently even now fundraising. So by sharing your needs in a community versus others who might not share and not be collaborative or engaged in a community, you have that competitive edge to find the answers that you need and to have leadership or other community members support you in your needs. And the second thing that I wanted to mention about relationships is make sure to, as you mentioned, people can help you down the line. Always nurture your relationships, even if you don't have a specific ask right now, and especially if you don't have a specific ask right now. Build those relationships right now so you can support others throughout the way and keep this open line of communication, because those people would be your biggest advocates, and those would be able to support you when you need to. So the competitive edge is making your asks, but nurturing relationships without asking for something, but giving first of all.
I think you make a brilliant point there, because a lot of times people do not keep the relationships going, right? And they will ignore you, not respond to you, what have you, but when they need something from you, there they are. So I think when you're building the community, like you both said, you probably want to be more of a giver, so that when you really need them, they will be there, right? So you guys just talked about if you don't find the community that you're hoping to build, that you'll end up creating one. What should a founder think about, or what are some of the tips that you would give a founder who may have already looked for it and is doing something so specific or niche that he or she needs to build a community? What tips would you give to them?
Okay.
You're jumping fast.
I'll start by saying that there are different types of communities that you can create as a founder, whether it's a product community, whether it's around a specific topic or area of expertise. So again, going back to mapping your needs. As a founder trying to create a community, I would start by thinking, why do you want to create that community? How would that community serve your business goals? Whether it's, are you trying to generate revenue? Are you trying to get new clients? Are you trying to minimize customer support and have a community where your community members assist one another and support one another with questions on your product? Or are you trying to expand your brand awareness and be an expert and have that, your company, your venture, be known in that sphere around that community topic, for example, like cybersecurity or other sectors? So map out those ideas and the milestones that you would like to achieve from such a community. And I think that's the start of how you can think of creating a community that would support your business and your growth.
Yeah, I think it's,
Can you hear it?
building a community, I would say is, oh, it's loud.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and I think, really make sure that's what you want to do, because then you're taking that responsibility for this community, and you don't want to just let it fall, because then you're letting everybody in that group fall, right? And so really knowing you want to do that, make sure that you aren't duplicating efforts, and you've really done your due diligence to make sure that there's nothing else out there. And I think usually that's when people typically want to start, but other times I hear people like, we should do this, and I'm like, have you talked to so-and-so? Because it's, and so don't just like come into a new ecosystem and jump right in and say, I'm gonna do this. Really get to know the ecosystem first and make sure that you're not recreating the wheel. Because that happens all too often, and then, that's what fails. And so really kind of seeing what's out there first. And then you probably need to start with that small group and almost work with your small group to build it and see what you want it to be. That's really important. It's not going alone.
I also want to add, you brought up great points, which made me think that I missed one important thing on my end. That it's not just about what your company needs, but what your community members need. So think about what would bring them to your community, how can you support them? And that's key in order to have a successful community for any business, for your growth. If you won't bring those solutions or those opportunities to your community members won't join the community and won't be interactive or engaged. So that's another key to provide value to your community members.
I did that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think that's a really, really good point, because oftentimes, like we were saying before, people are just thinking, especially startup founders, and I get that, because you're trying to grow your customer base and grow your business, but you forget to be human. You know, it's about relationship, it's about connections, it's about credibility, right? And if you just create a community to sell, it's gonna be really hard. But one thing I also wanted to ask you, it's kind of a touchy subject maybe, but Chief, you guys have heard of the women's group, Chief?
Yes.
I think everybody they've done a really good job, and super excited with what they've accomplished, right? But lately, they have taken a lot of flack for not being diverse enough. Now, it's a hard thing because you already are a women's group, and what do you mean you're not diverse, right? But the question that I have as community builders and community managers is, how important is inclusivity in the community that you build? It might not be about colors and, but it's the diversity of thought, right? I mean, that's what gets you to be successful. So my question is, as you're building your community and you're fostering the community, how do you think and make sure that the community is diverse enough?
Yeah, Innovation Studio actually, we've been through quite a journey. And right around 2020, we decided to change our name from Venture Cafe Foundation to Innovation Studio. Venture Cafe obviously is out of CIC in Cambridge, and that has become a global entity, and we started out of there. And then we came here and then went into Roxbury in Providence, and an area of Providence that is 70% Spanish speaking. And so we had to really look at who we are and what we do in the communities we serve. And that's why we decided to change our name, because Venture Cafe, the name was always associated with Cambridge. And so we didn't feel that that's who we were. And then as we did that, we really looked at our mission, and it's like, what is inclusion, and what do we want to be known for, and how are we inclusive in this? And so we went around circles, I think, like trying to describe of what we do and who we are and who we serve. And the one thing that we came out of it was, we want to be diverse. We want diversity across the board. And so that means what type of business you're starting, what you look like, where you're from, you know, all of these different things that, you know, what's your background, and we found that was so important. And I think people will ask us, well, how do you know, get such diverse audiences? It's because who we are, right? Our team is diverse, our participants are diverse, our speakers are diverse in all different ways. And we want to see that, and we want to continue to foster that. And it is important, because if you don't, you miss so much, such a lesson learning from people from all different walks of life. And if you're not listening, then you are missing huge segments of a population, and that means you're, as a startup, you could be losing huge segments of your customer base and your audience. So you're losing money, and I think that it's so important. And honestly, you learn so much beyond yourself by tapping into people who have so many different experiences.
Yes, what Ashley said. We try to empower individuals from diverse backgrounds and diverse ideas as much as possible. So For our Habito Christian Creole community, it's a business women in tech in your community, but we do have some men as well. So we're making sure to diverse the community, and even though it's oriented to female, men are a part of the conversation, and they can. We're not trying to seclude anyone, but include additional people and individuals and experts to support and empower one another. And as for my work with Stella Innovation and Element 46, we actually have different types of events where we not just try, but we do put emphasis on diversity and inclusion, whether it's through our monthly events of office hours where we connect startup founders to different accelerator program operators. This month we have global startups office hours in order to bring startups from different places inside the US and outside of the US to support them and make sure that our panel of mentors are diverse with different backgrounds and different sectors within the industry. And in addition to that, we try to diverse our cohort in our accelerators as much as possible to have a great representative of ideas and backgrounds and different types of inclusion. And I think it's important, and as Ashley said, sometimes people might not notice when you're inside a part of a group, you might not notice if it's diverse or not, because that's your mindset right now. So if you see those groups that might not be aware of their perspective, you can also support them and help them change their perspective. For example, I'll go to how can we empower women in tech, for example. If you see, first of all, great job to for VC for creating all women panels today, and thank you for that. If you, as a participant, see different types of events or conferences where you see less or perhaps non-female representative or founders speaking in those events, you can reach out to those organizers and say, hey, I see that you don't have a lot of representative or female founders or diversity or anything that you are aware is missing, and support them and try to provide your recommendations of speakers that might support that event. And once you help people change their perspective and realize that something might be missing, and within the group that they're used to, it seems obvious to have that specific group of people speaking, you open new doors to them, to new possibilities, to having more female founders, more founders from different backgrounds, from different sectors. So you can also support others in tapping into inclusion and diversity and supporting everyone as well in that.
Very well said. So as I mentioned, I'm in the tech world. So most conference organizers would be like, of course, after that, what happened? All male, not that we don't like men. Oh, but now we don't know. I don't think there are any female who does AI. It's like, say what? So I think that's where we come in. It's like, so I think like last year alone, I think I did like 12 events because organizers couldn't find people. I was like, which world do you guys live in? Like, call us. We will find you the women speakers.
So many amazing female speakers out there.
Exactly. But I want to mention one thing as you talk about diversity, right? And you just talked about it. Whenever we talk about all women panel or having, like a chief or a witty community, yes, it is women, but the world is made up of 50% men and 50% women. We cannot not have men as our allies. It is extremely important to have people like Jason and all of you here. And also, if you want to be on the board or you work for a big company, the men have already done it. They're out there. So you need the sponsors and the mentors to kind of get you there because it's partnership at the end of the day, right? Do you guys agree? Do you have any comments? I'm gonna open it up now. Wow, you guys asleep? Do you guys
Any
believe
questions?
that men should be allies?
Yes.
Yeah.
How can you help? Yeah. So,
They absolutely have to be, because about 2 years ago, I literally went to a meeting to support the women in the industry. And literally I went and attended, and they said, "What are you doing here?" So I left, right? Because literally they go, "What can you do?" And literally my wife is home and I have 2 daughters, right? I live with it every day. And I literally went there to offer my support, and I was shut down the room. So it's literally, I literally offered my help and literally rejected. So I'd love to hear you say that, because I offer how I can help. And so,
if you're still willing to help, let me know. We absolutely need help all the time, right, Jason?
Exactly.
Yes.
that's what I love Jason's offering, and absolutely.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, take some help from you guys. What do you think is the best idea for an immigrant, for a guy that wants to build a company here to land in Boston? You know, because you say there are students, there are entrepreneurs, but for somebody that really wants to be here and is not an active student, you know, and doesn't have a company yet here, but has a company in our country, what's the best idea to land here in Boston?
So like the best kind of soft landing or?
No, I mean,
to
like,
start
like
here.
a person, okay, where to stay, where can you live here, you know?
You mean as a student
No,
or as an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I would say, I think it depends, right? And so we actually do find a lot of people that we work with, and Marisa can talk to this the best, that they're not students. Because for students, right now, there's a ton of resources. When I went to college, I always say like, they didn't even talk about entrepreneurship. It wasn't a thing in most colleges. And now it is. And so there's a lot of people who are my age who have had careers in corporate and found they're really good at something and they have this startup idea, and so where do they start? They have to start from scratch, right? And so we find a lot of those individuals and kind of get them on the right track. But I think living wise, I mean, obviously Boston, and I live in Providence, or right outside Providence. The ecosystems are extremely different, and you're not too far from there.
Yes.
Very, very different. So I would say if you're starting a business, a hub like Boston, even if you can't afford to live here, commute from a train line, find a place outside that you can jump on the train and come, because the resources are night and day. And as much as I love Rhode Island and I really want to see it grow,
We go there for amazing food.
it's great food, right? I mean, great food. But yeah, a lot of times I'm trying to, without making people mad, kind of bring some of our startups from there to access the resources that are here, because so you do need to find that place that does have a lot going on. And I can't imagine other cities, and I know places are really trying hard to build their smaller ecosystems, but there are great places. So, in Worcester, for example, they have MBI, which is a mass biotech hub, and it's an amazing opportunity because the cost of living is so much lower, but they have built a really good bridge to Boston and the resources here, and so looking for what type of startup and where's that hub. So if it is a food startup, yeah, Providence is great, that is an amazing place. But if you're looking, and even though biotech is huge here, you might be able to find that in Worcester or in a different area. So just kind of knowing where you want to go and where that ecosystem is going to be, and not overextending yourself.
Good for your answer. Is there a specific industry that you're looking at?
We're hardware.
Your hardware,
Yeah,
robots?
laser cutter machines.
Sorry?
Laser cutter machines.
Okay. Farm labs, is that?
Something like that, yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay, sorry. I
I'm not familiar in specific hubs of what you're referring to, but to add to what Ashley said, I would also add that if you're able to find those hubs and communities that can support you in your specific sector, in hardware, in lasers, and you're able, and those communities or ecosystems or hubs are also partnering with other organizations and other communities, even outside of Boston. You're able to tap into so much larger ecosystems because each of those communities and each of those hubs bringing in their network, their experts, their partners into it. So you're able to gain so much more from finding the right hub or community to connect with.
Yeah, and I think there's, and I cannot, the name escapes me, but it's a manufacturing related organization. And if it's, let's say if that's an example, and to your point, they're also well connected with like funding sources and the whole manufacturing ecosystem, sorry.
Is it MEP?
I think, yes,
That's
that's
actually, yeah, MEP, so they're in each state, so it is a great one.
Yeah, it's another one. So my one cent to that would be to what they just added. Because I work also with, help companies land here in the US, especially also Boston, I can also tell you that it's a very hard community to break into if you're not connected, right? So if you're struggling, you're not alone. And that's why we have these communities, the accelerators, so that you can connect with one of these groups, and they will guide you to like where you need to be. And I think just tapping into those relationships in your community, I would say, is pretty key, right?
Definitely.
And the question was because we landed yesterday.
Oh,
welcome.
Yeah.
So you came yesterday and you're here.
We were not here, we landed Boston, but this event we were looking for.
There it is.
Good. Yeah,
There, right?
yeah, and so I would say keep doing this stuff, right? There's so many, and tapping into different people and asking, hey, where should I be next? Like, what is that next event coming up? Because there's a ton.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Any other questions, comments?
I'd be happy to refer to the first question, following how can men be a part of the conversation, how can they support us, women in tech. So I would emphasize what Sunny said earlier, that we are powerful, we build great communities, I feel like are able to support ourselves. We don't necessarily need someone else to support us, but with that being said, a lot of different types of people or companies can empower women in tech, whether it's by sharing their network and resources, whether it's by mentoring women in tech, supporting other female founders who are successful, in mentoring other female founders in their entrepreneurial journey and helping them navigate through this way, or helping female founders share their success stories with others. So there are many different ways to support women in tech, or in general, each individual in tech, in different types of opportunities. And as I said, our community is mostly women in tech. We do have not some, but we have men in our community, and we welcome them. And I would say that sometimes communities of only women in tech might exclude men, and that's probably something that we can emphasize more in bringing in people, whether it's men or women, into our communities. Because if you want to offer your support, and if you want to offer your connection and your time and network, we value it, and we want to find the way to leverage your resources. And perhaps some communities can learn how they can bring those opportunities to their community as well.
Good point.
So this is kind of general in community I have this question about like, does the sense of being part of the group, does the sense of belonging or the sense of in-group, does that pretty much come from having some kind of an out-group defined? If you don't have an out-group, do you also not have an in-group for people to feel belonging? I don't know, I don't have an answer, I just feel like it's a very difficult question and you touched upon it. On the like, is there anything wrong with a full woman panel? I don't think so, right? Like,
No.
right, so.
Never. You know why? Because this is not what it used to be. Before it was, it probably would have been three guys talking here, right? And we would be like over there handing the mics out to ask questions, right? So that has changed, but not enough. There are still pretty big organizers who are having difficulty finding female speakers, and we kind of look at that and roll our eyes. But I wonder if your question is more about the why of creating the communities?
It's kind of in my own journey. Me and my wife are they're completely opposite of the spectrum. And it ended up just being like, I created a community that is kind of full of people who's complete opposite of her. And she feels very excluded from, so like when I spend time with my community, it feels like it's taken away from my time with work time.
Tell her to build her own community that she would like to run.
But I would also say that's fine. That's why we have different types of communities.
Yeah.
And as I said earlier, there might be some dozens of great communities, but not all of them might be great for you or your wife. So different communities support different causes and different individuals. So you can find that community that can support you in your needs, and you can be supportive of them. And if not, there are additional great communities out there. And as for what you mentioned earlier, there's nothing wrong in having an all-female panel. It's amazing, and we should create more of that. And I would say that I think the first time for me that I realized the power of communities and leadership and collaboration and partnerships is in our first networking event that we had for our community. We were about 100 people in that community, and we had more than 100 people in that networking event. I know the number doesn't add up. People invited their friends, which was great. And one of our community members reached out to me and told me, you know what? It's the first time I'm in a tech networking event, and like 90% of the attendees are women, and that's amazing. And that echoed with me. That was the first time I realized the power of the community, the power of leadership, the power of supporting one another, and getting additional people into the community, whether they are men or women, to support one another and empower. And there's always lots of different types of communities that you can find that would help you navigate your way.
I also think too, and this is like, actually Jason and I were on a call earlier, we were kind of talking about this. So sometimes you have to exclude to help the people within your community. And I think that's okay, right? And we partnered with somebody else around here in the Seaport to try to help them out. And we went into it kind of skeptical, and I'm glad we did, because we signed a short-term contract. And I think we tried to combine two communities that didn't really match. And we hosted an event, and yeah, it was great. It was fun. People had drinks and BS and great. But I don't think anybody got anything out of this event. And I felt like, oh my gosh, my team put so much time and stuff into this, and nobody did. A month later, we hosted another event with a different community of people, and there was so much energy in the room, and all we heard was how great and how many people connected and how they built this, there were so many connections made, and I can't wait to talk to this person, when's the next one? And it was because we did cultivate the group that was there. And so sometimes there are, specifically in business, right? Like, if you have somebody who's just not interested in the tech world and they're there, of course, they're gonna feel like, oh, this isn't for me. Or they come in at an angle that's, it's just that it makes others uncomfortable. And so, I don't think it's excluding, I think it's just making sure that the groups align very well.
And as you said, sorry, pardon, and as you said, if someone joins the community and it's not the right fit to the narrative of your community, as a community leader, you can, as you said, direct them to other communities that might be a better fit for you. And we do so as well. We have different types of people who want to join our community and we feel like it's not a fit and we can support them in their needs. So we recommend them joining different communities in order for them to support them.
Yeah, and then there's one piece that we didn't talk about today, which is also close to my heart, is supporting students and fostering the next generation of innovators, right? So as you were talking about, when other people bring, when people in the community bring other people in, it's such a joy. Personally, for me, it was like I was doing a fireside chat with one of the chief scientists at NASA, and moms in the community, they brought their daughters to that conversation, and it was just amazing that we didn't even say that, right? You know, it was like, oh my God, they obviously are finding value not just for themselves, they're bringing like the next generation with them, and that was just very heartwarming. I know we are almost close to time, so before we wrap up, do you have any tip for startup founders and community building?
Reach out, we're here to help.
Yes. And always nurture your network and continue building your relationships. Keep an open line of communication. Don't just reach out to people when you need something. Say, hi, what's up? How's everything? Here's what we've been doing so far. Keep people engaged. So when you need something, they'll already be engaged with what it is that you do. They'll remember who you are. So keep an open line of communication and always nurture your relationships and network.
My tip of doing that is when you're on LinkedIn and they notify you that it's their birthday, just wish them happy birthday. That's it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you again to our awesome speakers. And keep doing what you're doing. Keep building and supporting the communities. And of course, you guys, you know all the resources are here. Reach out and good luck with everything. Thank you for being here.
Good job. You're all part of our community. Perfect.